They call it one of the most mysterious places in North America. A region so vast, so isolated, and so unforgiving that anything or anyone can disappear without a trace. For decades, people have vanished here without explanation. Hikers, hunters, bush pilots, even entire aircraft. Authorities write many of them off as accidents. Locals, however, have a different name for it. They call it the Alaska Triangle. The Alaska Triangle spans 3 points from Anchorage in the south to Barrow in the north and across to Juneau in the southeast. Inside this invisible triangle lies some of the most rugged and remote wilderness in the world. More than 200,000 square miles of snowfields, mountain ranges, ice caves, and untouched forest. But it isn't just the terrain that makes this place so strange. It's the sheer volume of unexplained disappearances that continue to baffle search and rescue teams. Since 1988, over 60,000 people have been reported missing in Alaska. That's nearly twice the national average per capita, and many of those disappearances have happened within the bounds of the Alaska Triangle. Some vanish during daylight hours on marked trails with experienced guides. Others go missing during flights over known air corridors. In most cases, there is no wreckage, no footprints, no signal, only silence. One of the most infamous disappearances occurred in 1972. Was when U.S. Congressman Hale Boggs boarded a twin-engine Cessna 310 bound for Juneau. Along with Alaska Congressman Nick Begich and 2 others, Boggs was traveling a familiar route over the Alaskan interior. But the plane never arrived. Massive search operations were launched, involving over 40 military aircraft, 50 civilian planes, and dozens of boats. Despite an effort spanning 39 days, no wreckage or bodies were ever found, not even an oil slick. The loss of a high-profile politician in broad daylight over U.S. territory stunned the country and triggered conspiracy theories that remain alive to this day. That same year, a series of similar incidents caused locals to reconsider the region's dark reputation. Small aircraft disappeared without any distress calls. Experienced hikers were swallowed by the land, some last seen walking toward the tree line, never to return. These weren't isolated events. They were part of a pattern, one that suggested something larger was at play. The terrain was unforgiving, yes. But was it something more than nature causing these disappearances? Then came the incident that many believe confirmed the triangle's eerie reputation. In November of 1986, a Japan Airlines cargo flight designated Flight 1628 was flying over Alaska en route from Iceland to Anchorage. At around 35,000 feet, the crew noticed something unusual: 2 glowing lights trailing their aircraft. Captain Kenju Terauchi, a seasoned pilot, reported that the lights moved in a way that defied conventional aircraft capabilities. A third, much larger object appeared, described as the size of an aircraft carrier. What made this case different was that the objects were not just witnessed visually. They were also confirmed on radar by both the flight crew and military tracking systems. The aircraft was diverted for safety, and Captain Terauchi later gave public interviews describing the encounter. He was later grounded by Japan Airlines, not for an error, but because his honesty caused too much attention. To this day, U.S. government has not offered an official explanation. Locals in Alaska aren't surprised by these accounts. Many indigenous tribes have long believed this land holds powers beyond human understanding. The Tlingit people tell stories of the Kush-to-Ko shape-shifting creatures that lure people into the wilderness, never to be seen again. The legends speak of strange noises in the night, footsteps that follow without a source, and travelers who vanish under clear skies. Whether myth or memory, these tales echo with an eerie familiarity to what still happens in the Triangle today. It's not just people that disappear. Sometimes, entire aircraft vanish off the radar, leaving behind no sign of mechanical failure. In 1990, a private Cessna carrying 4 passengers disappeared while flying a routine path near Nome. No emergency call was made. No debris was found. Search planes scoured the area for days, but the plane might as well have vanished into another dimension. What's more chilling is that sometimes things return, but not in the way you'd expect. In 2001, a small team of snowmobilers went missing north of Anchorage. After 3 weeks of relentless blizzards, search and rescue operations ceased. Months later, a single snowmobile was found upright, engine intact, parked neatly beside a frozen lake. No tracks, no bodies, no sign of distress. It was as if someone had stopped to rest and simply stepped off the face of the earth. Some scientists have tried to explain the Alaska Triangle's mysteries with logic. They blame the harsh terrain, unpredictable weather, and frequent seismic activity. Alaska is one of the most geologically active places in the world. Earthquakes, avalanches, and ice collapses happen with little warning. A single misstep could lead someone into a glacial crevasse deeper than a skyscraper's tall. Still, these explanations don't account for the absence of physical evidence. Skeptics also argue that the vastness of Alaska itself is part of the problem. With so much land, limited infrastructure, and severe weather conditions, search efforts are like finding a needle in a frozen haystack. Planes may crash, people may fall, and nature simply reclaims what was lost. But that doesn't explain the radar anomalies, the visual sightings of lights, or the missing pilots with thousands of flight hours, and yet the disappearances continue. Each year, dozens of new cases emerge. From solo hikers who vanish hours after sending a GPS ping, to entire families that go missing while driving through mountain passes. Authorities document what they can, families post flyers. Helicopters scan the landscape, but in most cases, nothing turns up. Only more questions. The Alaska Triangle may not appear on official charts, may not have an official explanation. But for those who have lost someone within its borders, it is very real. It is not a myth. It is not a legend. It is a question that remains unanswered, riddle carved into the ice and rock of one of the most dangerous and beautiful places on Earth. In the heart of the Alaska Triangle, stories aren't passed down, they disappear. The forests here aren't just dense, they're silent. The snow doesn't just fall, it swallows. And the people, they vanish. Not just a few isolated cases, but dozens every year. While skeptics write off these disappearances as bad weather or poor planning, locals and seasoned travelers know better. Something far more sinister might be at work. Take the case of Rick Hills, a 35-year-old outdoor survival instructor from Fairbanks. In 2008, Rick took off for a solo trek through Wrangell St. Elias National Park, a massive wilderness area known for its jagged peaks and unpredictable weather. He was experienced, well-equipped, and had checked in at multiple points with his satellite beacon. But somewhere along the final leg of his hike, Rick vanished. His gear, his tent, and even his campfire were found days later untouched. His boots were beside the fire. His backpack leaned against a tree. But Rick was gone. No blood, no struggle, it's just absence. Even stranger was the way search dogs reacted when brought to the site. The trained canines, normally confident in tracking, scents began whining, pacing, and refusing to move forward past a certain point, almost as if something unseen had crossed their path. One handler later told a reporter that he'd never seen dogs behave like that in 20 years of search and rescue. But without a body, and with no foul play evident, the case was closed. Officially, death by exposure. Unofficially, one more. Added to the Triangle's count in 1997, newlywed couple Ben and Olivia Harris set out on a road trip through Alaska, aiming to see Denali National Park. Their last known stop was a small gas station near Tok, where the clerk remembered them smiling, cheerful, and asking about nearby hiking spots. After that, nothing. Their car was found 2 weeks later on a narrow Forest Service road. Doors locked, keys inside. The couple's phones, wallets, and jackets were still in the back seat. The vehicle was in perfect condition, no signs of a crash. The area had full cell coverage, yet no emergency calls were ever made. When search teams began canvassing the region, they found something disturbing. A series of footprints barefoot leading away from the car and into the woods. The prints matched Ben's shoe size and went on for almost a mile before abruptly stopping in the middle of a clearing. No drag marks, no signs of Olivia, nothing, and the strangest detail, temperature that night had dropped below freezing. No one could have survived barefoot in those conditions. And yet, there were no signs of a body or animal attack. No clothes. No bones, nothing. One park ranger who had assisted with that search later confided to a journalist that he doesn't like going back to that part of the forest. When asked why, he replied, "Because every time I walk in there, it feels like something's watching me." And then there's the story of Lisa Harrington, a 14-year-old girl who vanished during a family camping trip in 1993. Her family had set up camp near Lake Clark, a remote area with minimal human activity. Lisa had gone to gather firewood just before sunset, and her parents reported her missing less than 20 minutes later. The search that followed involved helicopters, heat sensors, local volunteers, and even divers scouring the nearby lake. But she had vanished completely. 3 days into the search, the team found something strange. A small, carved wooden doll sitting upright on a tree stump, with Lisa's name scratched into its side. Her parents swore she never owned anything like it. The carving was detailed and old, possibly native in origin, but no one could determine where it had come from. It was the only trace ever found. Lisa, like so many others, was never seen again. In some cases, it's not just the disappearances that are baffling, it's what happens when people are found. Christopher Powell, a seasonal guide in the Tongass National Forest, went missing for 72 hours in 2011. When he was eventually discovered, barefoot and shivering beside a remote stream, he could barely speak. He had no memory of where he'd gone or how long he'd been gone. The last thing he remembered was walking toward the tree line to relieve himself after dinner. When he came to, he was miles away, dehydrated and confused. Medical tests showed no head injury, no drugs, no alcohol. Christopher refused to speak publicly after that, except to say, "Something's out there, and it doesn't want us to see it." Similar accounts from survivors mention strange lights, sudden blackouts, or the eerie sensation of being watched. Some even describe a moment of hearing voices in the forest, voices that sound like loved ones, calling them deeper into the trees. If these stories sound far-fetched, consider the data. Alaska has the highest number of missing person cases per capita in the United States. Statistically, one person vanishes for every 615 residents. That's more than double the national average. Experts point to the treacherous landscape, sudden snowstorms, and wildlife. But many of these cases defy those explanations. Experienced climbers, trained military personnel, GPS devices, radios, emergency supplies. Still, they disappear. One of the most cited examples by conspiracy theorists is the case of Bryce Martin, an off-duty Air Force officer who vanished during a solo camping trip in 2003. He had served multiple tours overseas, survived enemy ambushes, and was known for his situational awareness. Yet, during a weekend leave, camping just outside of Anchorage, he disappeared. His tent was intact, his rifle was still inside, but his shoes were missing, and no tracks led away from the site. Searchers found what looked like burn marks on several nearby trees, scorch patterns that radiated outward from the center of the camp. The Air Force classified the case as missing under unknown circumstances. His family believes something else happened, something unexplainable. These disappearances don't follow a pattern, and that's part of what makes the Alaska Triangle so disturbing. Old, young, civilian, military, prepared, unprepared. People disappear in minutes. Sometimes, the environment gives clues: a misplaced object, a strange marking, a trail that suddenly ends. But more often than not, there's nothing at all. Even local law enforcement officials are hesitant to talk about the phenomenon on the record. In a leaked interview from 2015, an Alaskan state trooper was quoted saying, "There are places we don't search anymore. If someone disappears there, we know we're not going to find them. We log it, we report it, but we don't expect answers." The deeper you look into these cases, the more unsettling they become. Some vanishings happen on camera one moment. A person is walking in frame, and then they're simply gone. No blur, no editing, just gone. In 2019, a wildlife photographer set up motion sensors and time-lapse cameras near a popular hiking trail close to Tokitna. He was hoping to capture moose or wolves on film. What he found instead was a sequence showing a man in a red parka walking down the trail. 3 frames later, the trail is empty. No sign of the man leaving the frame, no other wildlife, no weather. Distortion. It's just one less person in the wilderness. The Alaska Triangle is more than just a spooky legend or a local myth. A vast icy vacuum where logic, time, and even gravity seem to bend. Families don't get closure. Authorities don't get answers. Search teams, many of them veterans, leave with more questions than they arrived with. As one rescue worker once said, Alaska doesn't hide the dead. It absorbs them. Yet people keep going in, some seeking adventure, some hoping to find those who never came back. But whatever they're looking for, most of them return changed. And some don't return at all. As the legend of the Alaska Triangle grows, so does the web of theories surrounding it. For centuries, the land itself has been the subject of eerie tales and ominous whispers. Among the many who have studied the area's mysteries, some have argued that the triangle isn't merely a physical space, but a conduit to something far stranger. From UFO sightings to strange lights in the sky, and even more bizarre claims of supernatural forces at play, the triangle has become an enigma that refuses to be solved by conventional logic. One of the most compelling aspects of the triangle's legend is the sheer number of UFO sightings reported by both civilians and military personnel. Perhaps the most notable of these events took place in 1986, when a Japanese cargo flight, Flight 1628, encountered a series of unidentified flying objects while crossing the Alaska airspace. The flight crew reported seeing two glowing lights following their aircraft, which they initially assumed were other planes. However, the lights soon took on a different form, flying in formations and moving in ways that defied the laws of physics. They weren't simply traveling at high speeds. They were accelerating and stopping, changing directions with impossible sharpness. Captain Kenju Terauchi, the seasoned pilot, described the objects as being massive, larger than a Boeing 747, with a glowing aura. The objects followed the aircraft for over 30 minutes, and all the while, they were also picked up by military radar. After an initial investigation, the U.S. military claimed that the objects were probably just weather phenomena, or some form of experimental aircraft. But the flight crew remained convinced that what they saw was something much more extraordinary. Perhaps even more unsettling is the fact that this wasn't the only case. Over the decades, numerous civilians have reported seeing strange lights in the skies above the Alaska Triangle, often near areas known for disappearances. Many believe these sightings are connected to the strange forces at play in the region, perhaps even the reason why people vanish without a trace. These lights have been described in various ways. Some have been likened to orbs of light, glowing in different colors: red, green, and blue, moving erratically through the sky. Others report seeing beams of light emanating from the ground, shooting up toward the clouds, and seemingly vanishing into the darkness. These sightings typically occur during the nighttime, as many of those who've experienced them describe a sense of disorientation, fear, and a compulsion to move toward the light. One of the most famous UFO incidents took place in 1996, when a group of hikers lost in the vastness of the triangle reported seeing a massive object in the sky. They described it as being shaped like a cigar, floating silently above them, casting an eerie red glow over the surrounding wilderness. They had no idea what it was, but they all agreed that the object was moving slowly, hovering almost as if it were surveying them. At first, they thought it was a weather balloon or military aircraft, but they soon realized it was nothing like anything they'd ever seen before. The strange phenomenon did not stop with lights in the sky. Reports of shadows and figures moving in the trees are common among those who ventured into the triangle. Some claim to have witnessed human-shaped figures standing just out of sight, hidden by the thick woods, while others have heard footsteps echoing behind them when no one else was around. These sightings seem to be particularly concentrated in areas where disappearances have occurred. In the case of two hunters in 2004 who were hunting near the Denali National Park, they reported being followed by an unseen presence. The men could hear heavy breathing behind them and the unmistakable sound of footsteps crunching in the snow. When they turned around, no one was there, only thick fog and an oppressive silence. After hours of wandering through the fog, they decided to leave the area. As they made their way back to their truck, One of them looked over his shoulder and swore he saw a figure standing motionless in the trees. They both ran to their vehicle, and the moment they started the engine, the figure was gone. But the strange sensation never left them. Neither man ever returned to the area. But could these strange experiences have any connection to the indigenous tribes that have lived in Alaska for thousands of years? According to the Tlingit people, who have long called the region home, the land is not just a physical place, it is a spiritual one. They have long spoken of the Kushtaka, or land otter men, mysterious shape-shifting beings that lure travelers into the wilderness to their doom. The Kushtaka are said to take the form of humans, animals, or a combination of both, and are known to trick and confuse those they encounter, leading them off the beaten path and into areas from which they can never return. The Kushtaka aren't the only mythical creatures associated with the region. The Inupiat people speak of Tunguska, powerful spirits that reside within the forest. These spirits are said to be able to control the weather and manipulate the land itself. They are both revered and feared, as they are believed to have the power to make people disappear, leaving nothing but a trail of confusion and terror in their wake. These legends, passed down through generations, could offer a glimpse into the paranormal forces that may lie at the heart of the Alaska Triangle. Skeptics often dismiss these stories as folklore and superstition, but many researchers and travelers claim that the strange phenomena in the triangle align perfectly with the stories of the indigenous people. Could the sightings of unexplained lights and shadowy figures be the work of supernatural forces? Could the sudden disappearances and inexplicable circumstances be connected to something far beyond human understanding? Scientists and parapsychologists have also delved into the mysteries of the Alaska Triangle, with some suggesting that electromagnetic anomalies might explain some of the strange occurrences. It is known that the Earth's magnetic field fluctuates in certain areas, and Alaska, with its vast wilderness and proximity to the magnetic poles, could experience extreme anomalies that disrupt both human and technological devices. This could account for some of the disorientation reported by travelers, as well as the sudden disappearance of objects or people without a trace. Others point to time, anomalize the idea that the triangle might be a thin spot in the fabric of time itself. There are reports of people feeling like they've stepped into a different world, a place where time moves differently, and the rules of reality seem to bend. These individuals often experience lost time, where hours or even days seem to pass in a matter of minutes, or conversely, where time seems to stretch endlessly. Could this be the reason that some people vanish and are never seen again? Are they stepping into another dimension, never to return? One thing is certain: there is no shortage of theories when it comes to explaining the Alaska Triangle. Whether it is UFOs, ghosts, electromagnetic anomalies, or something even stranger. One thing remains clear: the mysteries of the triangle are far from being solved, and as long as people continue to disappear, these theories will only multiply. For now, the Alaska Triangle remains one of the most mysterious and dangerous places on Earth. It's a land where the ordinary and the extraordinary collide, where myths and legends might just be real, and where the forces at play defy even the most scientific explanations. While many believe that supernatural forces or extraterrestrial entities are responsible for the disappearances and odd phenomena inside the Alaska Triangle, others point their suspicions in a different and, perhaps more chilling direction. The United States government whispers of secret military installations, hidden experiments, and mysterious no-fly zones have surrounded Alaska for decades. It's no coincidence, some argue, that Alaska houses some of the most remote and inaccessible U.S. military sites in the entire country. Combined with the state's vast, uninhabited terrain, becomes the perfect place to bury secrets literally and figuratively. One of the most controversial installations in Alaska is the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, better known as HAARP. Located in Gakona, this sprawling facility consists of massive antennas designed to study the ionosphere. According to official statements, HAARP's purpose is purely scientific, exploring ways to enhance communication and navigation systems. But conspiracy theorists have long suspected otherwise. Some believe HARP is actually a weaponized system, capable of manipulating weather, triggering earthquakes, and even controlling minds. And with its location sitting squarely within the Alaska Triangle, it becomes an irresistible target for those seeking answers about the region's mysteries. There are also bizarre links between HAARP and electromagnetic disturbances reported by travelers in the Triangle. Several missing persons cases involved malfunctioning compasses, dead satellite phones, or GPS devices that showed impossible locations like being miles offshore while still clearly standing in the forest. Could HAARP or some other unknown facility be interfering with these instruments? In 2016, a private bush pilot named Marcus Ellison claimed to have witnessed strange, rhythmic pulses of light emanating from a restricted area not far from HAARP's perimeter while flying at night. He was certain it wasn't natural. It was organized, he later told a local news outlet. Like a coded signal blinking through the clouds. A plane's instruments started acting up. I turned back fast. But Marcus isn't the only one. Multiple hikers and hunters have independently reported low hums, static charges in the air, and a strange metallic taste in their mouths while exploring certain valleys, all of them within a broad radius surrounding Gakona. While none of this is direct proof of anything sinister, it's enough to fuel a growing suspicion that something inside the triangle is being covered up and the government knows more than it's saying. Further adding to this suspicion are the military aircraft disappearances that have occurred inside the triangle. One of the most mysterious took place in 1950, when a U.S. Air Force Douglas C-54 Skymaster, carrying 44 people, vanished while en route from Anchorage to Great Falls, Montana. The plane was in regular contact with air traffic control and sent no distress signals. It simply disappeared off radar. No wreckage was ever found, despite a massive search. Involving over 85 aircraft and 7,000 ground personnel. It remains one of the largest and most baffling military disappearances in U.S. history. Interestingly, decades later, military documents relating to that search effort were quietly reclassified, sparking renewed interest in the case. Some believe that the plane may have encountered something it wasn't supposed to, and that the search teams weren't just looking for wreckage, but cleaning up evidence. Another unsettling incident occurred in 1972 when a private plane carrying U.S. House Majority Leader Hallie Boggs, along with Alaska Congressman Nick Begich and 2 others, disappeared while flying from Anchorage to Juneau. Once again, no wreckage, no distress calls, no sign of life. Despite an intensive 39-day search involving the Coast Guard, Navy, and Air Force, the plane was never found. Theories ran wild. Sabotage, a political assassination, or perhaps something much stranger was the Alaska Triangle involved. Decades later, FOIA Freedom of Information Act requests for more detailed information about the flight were met with heavily redacted documents and refusals on national security grounds. This begs a dangerous question. What is the government hiding in Alaska? Could it be that certain disappearances are being quietly erased from public records because they're connected to secret operations? Could lost hikers and pilots be stumbling into areas they weren't supposed to see? There are rumors, though impossible to verify, that a deep underground military base exists beneath the Brooks Range, allegedly connected to a network of tunnels running under Alaska's mountainous terrain. Some believe this base is conducting top-secret experiments related to energy weapons, space-time research, or interdimensional travel. It sounds like science fiction, until you realize how little oversight exists in Alaska's backcountry. Vast regions are completely unmapped, and some mountain ranges have never been fully surveyed. In 2019, a satellite imaging project revealed what appeared to be a perfect hexagonal structure buried under a glacier in the southern part of the state. The image was quickly removed from public databases, but screenshots continued to circulate. Online, no official explanation has ever been given. Even longtime residents have reported being followed or questioned after speaking too freely about what they've seen. A trapper named Eli Keegan once told a podcast that he discovered giant steel doors in the side of a cliff while tracking a wounded animal. When he returned 2 days later to mark the location, the doors were gone covered, or perhaps never there to begin with. A week later, He claimed he was visited by two men in suits asking about his movements in the area. They weren't military. They weren't FBI. And they didn't leave a business card. Incidents like this have led some to believe the triangle is home to a modern-day Area 51, a place where unexplainable phenomena are not only occurring, but are being studied, hidden, and perhaps even replicated. Others speculate the triangle might be a natural gateway, an interdimensional rift or portal, and that the government has known about it for decades, possibly even using it for experimental purposes. These theories gained traction when former military contractors anonymously described seeing massive power surges deep in the wilderness, along with anomalous readings that resembled those found in known magnetic vortices around the world. As the ones in the Bermuda Triangle or the Devil's Sea in Japan, it's easy to write off these theories as fringe speculation. But when trained pilots, scientists, experienced explorers start echoing the same suspicions, one has to wonder if there's more truth to the tales than the authorities are willing to admit. For every person who vanishes in the Alaska Triangle, there's another left behind asking questions. And for every search party that returns empty-handed, there's a file tucked away, unresolved, unexplained, possibly unwelcome. So the mystery deepens. Whether it's HAARP, secret underground facilities, or government involvement in unexplainable phenomena, one thing is clear: the Alaska Triangle isn't just nature being cruel, something is being kept from us, and perhaps the most terrifying possibility is not that the government is hiding secrets within the Alaska Triangle, but that even they don't fully understand what they've found. If there's one thing the Alaska Triangle refuses to provide, it's closure. Over the past 4 parts, we've explored the staggering disappearances, the UFO encounters, paranormal legends, electromagnetic anomalies, and even government secrecy. But to truly grasp the depth of this mystery, we must turn to the only ones who've come back, the survivors, those who've entered the triangle, and lived to tell about it, speak of something far more disturbing than simple misadventure or getting lost. Their accounts reveal a psychological and even spiritual toll, suggesting that the triangle doesn't just hide danger, it feeds on fear, confusion, and the unknown. One such survivor is Laura Simmons, a seasoned solo hiker who entered the Wrangled Les T. Elias backcountry in 2011. Equipped with GPS, satellite phone, food supplies, and years of wilderness experience, she should have been fine. But after venturing off a marked trail for what she believed was only 15 minutes, everything changed. Her compass began to spin. Her GPS froze, and the forest around her went dead silent. "It felt like I was walking through a hallway that didn't belong in this world," she later said. "The trees looked the same, but weren't. It was like something was ... rearranging them behind me." She wandered for 3 days, surviving off melting snow, unable to retrace her path. Finally, she stumbled back onto a trail, but her watch said only 6 hours had passed. That was the moment. "I realized I hadn't been lost," she said. "I'd been taken somewhere." Another case involves Daniel Crow, a small aircraft pilot who crash-landed in the Triangle during a solo flight in 2002. He managed to survive the crash, set up camp, and activate his beacon. But the rescue team never received the signal.
Daniel
Claims he saw lights in the sky every night, hovering, pulsing, observing, but no helicopters came. After 5 days, he walked out of the forest, nearly frostbitten. His beacon was found to be fully operational. There was no explanation why the signal wasn't picked up. Survivor accounts like Laura's and Daniel's suggest something much darker, something that manipulates time, space, and perception. It's as if the Alaska Triangle has an intelligence of its own, not just a place, but a force, a living enigma. Even native folklore supports this theory. Tlingit, Inuit, and Athabascan tribes have all described the land as alive, with its own will. They tell of spirit winds that confuse hunters, its whispering rocks that lure travelers, and sky beings that come down when the stars blink in unusual rhythms. These aren't just stories, they're warnings passed down through generations. But what do modern scientists say? Many believe the Alaska Triangle is the result of a confluence of rare natural forces. Massive underground quartz deposits are known to exist in the region, And under extreme geological pressure, quartz can produce piezoelectric energy, a kind of natural electromagnetic field that can disrupt instruments, trigger hallucinations, or even affect human cognition. Combine that with Alaska's high geomagnetic activity and unpredictable weather, and you have a cocktail for chaos. Then there's the terrain. Alaska is home to thousands of hidden caves, crevices, ice fields, and remote lakes, many of which have never been explored. The simple truth might be that people fall into places no one knows exist, and their remains are never found. Nature is brutal after all. But there's one flaw in this theory. Disappearances don't always follow logic. Many occur along well-traveled trails, in good weather, under normal conditions. Some people vanish within minutes of being seen. And in a number of cases, entire search teams have come back shaken, reporting unusual circumstances, strange lights and missing time. Even the military, with all its tools and training, has failed to explain some of the events in the triangle. Are we dealing with a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand, or something beyond science altogether? Let's not forget that other places on Earth have similar reputations. The Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Sea in Japan, and even parts of the Great Lakes. In each, the same ingredients appear: missing planes, strange weather, electromagnetic anomalies, and a high frequency of unexplained disappearances. Is there a pattern? Are these locations connected by something global or even cosmic? Some researchers propose a radical idea that Earth has energy vortexes, natural gateways between dimensions or even realities. They argue that in these vortexes, the laws of physics begin to bend. Time becomes unstable, navigation fails, consciousness is altered, and those who enter may never return, not because they perished, but because they crossed over. Is it possible that the Alaska Triangle is one of these gateways? There's no scientific consensus, and perhaps there never will be. But the consistent elements, the survivor accounts, the missing time, the technological malfunctions, strange lights, the disappearances with no trace, suggest that something very real is happening. Something we can't explain, and yet people keep going. Tourists, thrill seekers, cryptid hunters, UFO enthusiasts, all drawn by the magnetic pull of mystery. They want to find the truth, to capture it on camera, to be the one who finally proves the Alaska Triangle is real, but many never return. Some are found weeks later, dazed, wandering, unable to speak. Others leave the triangle physically unscathed, but mentally shattered. What does this mean for the rest of us? It means that the Alaska Triangle stands as a symbol of what we don't understand. A reminder that for all our maps, satellites, and science, the Earth still has secrets. It's places that don't obey our rules, forces that don't care about logic. And perhaps that's what makes the Alaska Triangle so terrifying. Not that it's haunted or cursed or home to alien bases, but that it doesn't need an explanation to be dangerous. It simply is. A place where people vanish, where compasses lie, where time folds in on itself, and where nature, whatever form it takes, still holds the upper hand as we end our journey through the Alaska Triangle. One question remains. Will we ever know the truth? Or will the triangle keep its secrets, one missing soul at a time?